You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy Im, where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy Im.
Episode 43, Create Evidence with Megan Urban. On this episode of the podcast, I interview life and business coach Megan Urban. She hails from the great state of Texas in the United States and currently lives outside of Austin with her family. A natural leader with a strong corporate background, she made a mark in the network marketing world quickly and was able to land private clients right out of the gate when she pivoted into entrepreneurship. I find Megan to be a truly beautiful soul, and I love how she's showing women how to use a positive mindset and that you can have a life beyond your wildest dreams once you have a positive relationship with yourself. On the episode, she talks about building and creating the evidence that we can do hard things in order to strengthen our inner confidence. She also believes that you need to trust your intuition and pivot when things don't work out. In her business, Megan has created a true sisterhood and community with her work. She talks about being in a mastermind program and how she's now created a tribe for her people in her mastermind. She also shares why women need to be face-to-face and regularly participate in events, workshops, and retreats, and how she now offers these on the regular. Megan also talks about what she's learned when her father was tragically killed in an accident and why we need to think about the legacy that we want to leave in the world. She talks about living your purpose and why you need to tune in each and every day, for today really could be your last. We also talk about the law of divine compensation and how when you put out value into the world, it always comes back to you. I love Megan's vibrancy, energy, and heart. She's a gem of a brave girl, and I know that you'll agree. So meet my sister Megan from Texas. So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Today I have Megan Welsh Urban on the line with me, and she's in the Austin area, and she's the CEO of Megan Urban Coaching. So welcome to the show, Megan.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I love what you're doing out in the world as a life coach. And I see that you're a mom, you've got 3 kids, but yet you're leading what you call your light tribe. So talk a little bit about how you got to be a life coach and what you're putting out into the world today.
Okay. So a little background, I was in corporate for, all through my 20s and doing, one foot after the other, exactly what I'd been programmed to do and what I thought was the right thing. And really got to the point, going through a lot of personal stuff in my 20s, I was doing some therapy. And I just remember being at a crossroads with careers and relationship and feeling really lost and telling my therapist, I want to be a life coach, but I had no idea. I didn't have a model for that. I'd probably come across Marie Forleo or someone like that and gone, that's my ideal. That's exactly what I want to do. But I didn't have the network. And I was really using my, my current reality to reflect back to me and be like, oh, well, you don't actually have the training either. In my mind, you go to school, you get a degree for something, and then that's what you launch with. And, I was just like, is there even anything like that for life coaching? I felt like, I needed, all of this training. Now I've realized that every single thing you've been through in life, it's how you apply it. It's how you use that mindset. So fast forward, over 10 years, and everything in my life just, again, flowed directly to that. It's like I already knew. And I found myself, I had a network marketing business that was very fun and very profitable. And it was something that I rose pretty fast in. And so people were reaching out to me and asking me to help with branding and marketing and mindset. And the whole, I'm very values-based and very intention-based. And so everything that I post and create is all based around my values. And people from different industries were coming and asking, can you help me do that in my business? I'm a realtor. Can you help me do this? I own a store, because they saw that it was extremely authentic and I was having a lot of fun with it. And so I was doing this for free for a while before my husband was kind of like, Megan, this is a business. You don't have time to do all of this. And so I just branched out, and I eventually got certified in life coaching. And I do a complete blend of business and life coaching, pulling on, pretty much everything that I know, that I've learned through positive and negative experience in my life. I pull in a lot of spirituality because I work a lot with alignment and getting into flow and, being in a higher vibe in order to do all of that. But that's it kind of in a nutshell.
Wow. So when you were in corporate, what was your background like in corporate? I know you had your MBA. What was like, kind of, what were you doing? Finance, marketing, or what?
A little bit of everything. I ended up, I'm really good with systems. And so I worked for some oil and gas businesses. I'm from Texas. Hello. And but different types of oil and gas businesses. And sometimes I was in a strictly accounting role. When I transitioned out, what I was doing was there was a procurement position that I was doing a lot of purchasing, a lot of warehousing, a lot of transportation. And then I was working with the controller and the accounting team. And then I transitioned to work with the accounting team for a while to be able to learn exactly how everything matched up. And then I worked to get the systems right so that the communication was really solid. And, so our invoices were going out much faster. We were getting our people paid. We were getting paid by our debtors. So it was fun to me. It was, I was good at it. What I did not love was being there at 7 a.m., leaving at, 6 p.m. That to me, when you're in your 20s, it's not such a big deal. I didn't love being told I had to travel. I was in sales for a while. I was told, it would be like 25% travel, and it ended up being more like 75% travel. There were, things like that all of a sudden I was like, this is not even I don't feel respected for me. I feel like a number. And, it really got to the point that it was out of alignment with me, but I had to completely change my mindset in as far as what was normal or expected, because branching out as an entrepreneur is terrifying.
Right.
And that's the only alternative.
Right. And fast forward now, you're in such a different place and space, and you are much more values-based and aligned with what's important to you. And you're still authentic. You come across as very authentic. Yeah.
Thank you. And now that's what I teach women, that you can have both. You can live a life with boundaries and a really strong foundation of, all of the things that do light you up and that do make you feel, safe and secure and grounded. Because whenever you are safe and secure and grounded, then when you think about it from the point of like, if you're building, a house or a skyscraper, you need a foundation that's going to be able to match that dream, to match that level. And so whenever you put more energy into that foundation, then you're able to just go higher and higher on your own, and part of that foundation is surrounding yourself with a sisterhood of people, surrounding yourself with really positive relationships, but mostly having that positive relationship with yourself, which takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of building of evidence, that you have to be able to see that in your own life and say, okay, this backfired, this blew up in my face. How was I out of alignment? How did I go against my intuition in this? Okay, my contract with myself is I'm never going against myself again. Anytime my intuition is pinging on something, there's a reason for that. I'm going to follow that. And that's that's personal knowledge. That's exactly how I got here. going against it and going, okay, that didn't work. Pivot one more time. Pivot.
Exactly. Well, I think sometimes we don't trust our gut. It's like, or we don't listen to the whispers. And like Oprah Winfrey says, listen to the whispers before it becomes a roar. Yes. It's true. It's so true. And I want to go back to, I like your comment about the sisterhood and the community and surrounding yourself with these like-minded people. So have you ever found yourself when you weren't really surrounded with that, or you didn't have that and you just craved it, or you just have always been a natural leader in creating that community for yourself and for others?
Both. There have been times, yes, natural leader, always been able to create it. But like I'm in a position right now where we live in a very beautiful rural area. We have 20 acres of land, and it has been on my heart for the past couple of years that although it was a really great decision when we when we moved out here and, we had one young child at the time. Now we have 3. They need peers. They want to go ride bikes with their friends. They want to run down the street and go play. And it's harder and harder the older they get for us to provide that. So that sense of community, even though Stahl and I, my husband, we can jump on social media, we can jump on the phone, text, we can meet up with friends. Our social needs are very filled. For the kids, it's a little bit harder. And for me, aligning with other, just strong values-based spiritual entrepreneurs that I crave, it's harder for me being in a rural area. So I'm having to drive into Austin, which is the next big city over. Takes me an hour to get there, an hour to get back. And finally, it's just like, looking at that and going, okay, this is not working because I'm craving a different level of it now. The kids are getting older. Before it was, my head was down and I was just in it, for animals and house remodel and kids everywhere. I mean, it was, we were just in it for so long. And then you look up and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I need something a little bit different right now. So again, that's life, flowing you that information. And I know that if my intuition says that is what our kids need. It's what I need. It's what my husband needs. And that's what we need for our marriage. It's what we need for our family, but it's not comfortable. It means a lot of change. It means a lot of risk. It means a lot of financial changes. And for us to uproot our lives and change everything, it's terrifying. And like, we're in it right now. And it has been, it kept me up last night because so many things have to align in order to make that happen. And then there's that doubt. But I do know that from experience, if I go against my intuition and if life is whispering something and I don't pay attention, one, there's a lot of regret, but also, like you said, there comes the roar. I don't like the roar. I've had that enough that I would rather, pay attention to, to what that looks like. And there's been a lot of situations like that. But the older my kids get, I'm realizing the importance of sisterhood. The further I get in my business, the more I realize I need a mastermind around me at all time. I'm part of a paid mastermind right now, but I'm also creating a mastermind of women around me professionally. I have created my Light Tribe group, which is just a casual group on Facebook, because one of my huge things that I follow is create what you crave. I wanted something like that. I wanted a fun, uplifting, inspiring place on the internet to go that I could post questions, ideas, quotes, concepts that I just kind of wanted some conversation and feedback on, but maybe not Facebook style, It's right. It's a little bit over the top and controversial. It's kind of like everyone hammers it in with the mallet. I wanted something that was very feminine, very high vibe, and so I created that. And, sometimes I'm super active in it. Sometimes other people are, posting things. It just kind of flows. But I love having a place like that. And I feel called to create more in-person things like that. So a lot of workshops. I have one upcoming this next week in Austin. There will be 3 retreats that I'm hosting this year. Women need women. We need to be face-to-face. We need to come together.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. So I kind of want to pivot again. So I know that there was one post that you wrote on Facebook that I saw, which I didn't realize, was that your father was killed in an accident when he was 63. Talk a little bit about that and how that maybe changed you or changed your perspective on things. I'm so sorry that happened to him so young.
Thank you. So it was a very surprise accident. It was, I guess the accidents are right. It was, it was very much the concept. And it just hit me, that the day that he passed away, we are literally here one moment and gone the next. And yeah, it's a concept that we know, but having it that close, his shoes were still by the back door. I remember brushing my teeth because I went to stay with my mom, brushing my teeth at his sink that night, and all those little whiskers from whenever he had trimmed his goatee. It's just like, but it's like he was on a trip and not, and going to come back, except he wasn't. And it really enforced the idea for me of it's our duty to live each day like it's our last, and create the legacy while we're here. So legacy is actually my word for the year, and it's all about a legacy of light. And it is, this is applied in so many ways. So one of the things I do is whenever I am, maybe just kind of going through the motions of life, and I'm busy and I'm doing the grocery shopping and paying the bills and doing the work and everything else. And then I look up and I haven't really connected with my husband. We're two ships passing in the night, hot potato with the kids and, hot potato with the dogs and everything else. And I look up and I'm like, no, that all of this stuff and the doing and the activity, this is not why we're here. We're here to connect, and we're here to learn, and we're here to be a light for others. And so I will very intentionally pause and make some sort of intentional memory with my husband, make some sort of intentional memory with my kids. And looking at it, I try to do it pretty seasonally, so that, say like Valentine's Day is coming up, really, what are the things that I want them to remember about their childhood? What do I want them to remember about us as parents? So one of the things that I'm doing is taking, I've cut out little red hearts, and all of the things that I think are amazing about them, and the compliments, the things that will build them up, I'm writing them on hearts. I'm sticking them all over. We do a lot in our breakfast room. That's where the art table, that's where we eat meals, and everything happens there. And so they're going to go up all over there. So I'm working on that. I started it yesterday. I'm going to work on it more today. So just the intentionality behind that, the intentionality of living your purpose and letting your voice truly come through in whatever it is you're doing. And living your purpose does not have to mean that's what you do for your job and you are paid to live your purpose. Your purpose could be bringing people together. It could be, really acting out of compassion and forgiveness in your relationships. There's so many different ways that whenever we really stop and tune in, we get pretty clear on what it is. And knowing that we are not guaranteed the next day. And if tomorrow I was gone, then would I be happy with how I lived this last day or this section of my life? And it makes me completely pause, reconsider a lot of things about how I'm thinking, if I'm letting, kind of fear and ego run the show, and, really transition into a much higher vibe, and a vibe of abundance and love, and then let all of my actions come from there, which it is really a daily, it has to happen pretty frequently in order to understand all of these actions. They're going to be a result of everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm feeling. So if I slip and I get in kind of a negative mindset, I'm depleted, I'm exhausted, I'm not eating the right things, I'm not moving my body, I'm not putting myself to sleep on time, all of those things, my vibe just kind of tanks, and my thoughts will tank with it. The actions that I take from that lower place are not going to be very inspired. I'm just kind of, scraping by. And so those types of things I am pretty vigilant on. And I think that's most of the reason why, is because, I have that example now of, he was here and then he's gone, and being able to hopefully model that for my kids too. That's and not just my kids, but clients and, anyone that comes in, in contact with me. And then one of the things, that I do with my kids is, I will completely mess up, and I will sit them down and be like, Mama messed up, like I yelled, and I, and I don't do it as great with my husband, but I should, and remind them that, you get another chance, you get to apologize, and you get to pivot, and you get to say, this is, I messed up, but I'm going to do better. I noticed that this doesn't feel good for anybody, and I'm going to do better.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love it. I love legacy of light, a legacy of light. I love that. I love that. I love that for you. So before we got on the podcast, you talked about podcast and your love of podcasts. So talk about podcast and maybe some of the favorites that you have, or why you think, podcasting is so popular now.
Well, I think a lot of reason it's so popular is because we have such shorter attention spans, and there is such an abundance of great information out there. And we've gotten to the point that it's the quicker that it's able to be disseminated and provided to us. And we're taking that information and we're ready to act on it. And I notice with myself, I don't always have the patience to listen to an entire audio book. I want the highlights. I want the nuggets, unless it's a story. It's a different thing if if it's a story, but I don't read as much fiction. I read more self-help. I'm a life and business coach. Hello. I didn't get here by accident. And so and I know this is a lot of, the world that I'm in, but there's a huge movement into, like, with our society, of taking information and becoming a better person with it, and growing ourselves, growing our levels of prosperity, growing our levels of influence. So many people that are doing that now, and podcasting, and plus it's free. It is that is something that I think is a very interesting concept for us, because it goes against in anything that we've really been taught. Here, put out this free value, put out all of this information. But I'm a huge believer. This is Marianne Williamson. Have you ever read her book, The Law of Divine Compensation?
It's one of my favorites. Yes.
Yes. I think that is so true on something you add all of that value to other people. It comes back to you. And it's usually not linear, but it is always going to come back to you. And so the podcasting world, I love that. So one of my favorites right now that I'm really stuck on is Expanded. There's a woman named Lacey Phillips. She has this entire manifesting formula, and I do a lot of work with manifesting. And she interviews her expanders. So the concept of an expander would be someone that is literally showing you what's possible in your realm of what you actually want to create and manifest in your life. It's someone who's already been there. And so she is interviewing the people that she has relied on, that are the expanders that are already doing the thing, and then introducing them to her tribe as expanders for them. And so that has opened me up to, like, right now I'm really stuck on human design and learning about that. And so Jenna Zoe is someone that she brings her on quite a bit, and she references her pretty often. So there's a lot of different things. There's another podcast she just did about flower essences. So how they, I'm probably going to butcher it the way, how the different elements of the flowers, whenever it's distilled into an essence, it will actually, so they help support you emotionally for whatever it is that you're going through. So you might say, like, okay, I have anxiety, so I'm going to take something for anxiety, but it's actually a more homeopathic remedy where it's looking at what is causing that anxiety, what fear is coming up with you, what loneliness is coming up for you. And so then it goes in, and that flower essence will support the loneliness or support the fear, that then in turn supports the big symptom, which would be the anxiety. So that, little things like that, she just brings on the coolest people.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and about anxiety, I think so many of us have it because of social media. I think it's like amplified, even if you had like a low grade level, but it's just the whole compare and despair that social media causes for so many people. And I think that any kind of homeopathic remedy for something like that is really, preferred, I think, to going, nothing is wrong with therapy and medication and things like that. But if you can get relief through some kind of homeopathic remedy, like essential oils or, acupuncture or massage therapy or Reiki or reflexology, like there's so many healers out there in the world that can help you with that. So
I use all of those. I'm a big believer in working with healers, whatever that looks like. If that's happening on a physical level, if that's happening on an energetic level, it's so important because, again, with that foundation, whenever we take care of the foundation, then we're able to do our work in the world, and we're not meant to just keep going. We are not a tree. We are not just like super solid and, standing there with our roots in the ground and able to just keep growing. We are so easily influenced. We are emotional beings, and you take something like social media, and it is people's highlight reel. And then there's the other kind of backlash that's coming from that, where people are intentionally taking their vulnerabilities and like selling their vulnerabilities. I've heard a lot about that lately. I'm like, can we just stop picking things apart? It's like, can I just see some pictures of your kids and your vacation? And maybe you can give some information about, the lessons that you're learning right now, and just kind of let us in on your humanness, because that's what people want. They want human. They want to be able to connect with someone at a heart level and not see the pretty photoshopped pictures, because that's not real life and it doesn't feel like anyone's real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. So growing up, what was your growing up life like? Were you in Texas growing up? Is that where you grew up? Uh-huh.
And I always felt it was very normal, and like as an adult, I look back, I'm like, was it that normal? But it felt, I was very supported. I was an only child. My parents were both entrepreneurs, and they owned a business, oil and gas. I've always been in it. And talk about foundation. I was always taught that I can do anything I want to do. And there was never any sort of, it was never ever communicated to me that because I was a female, I couldn't do as much as a male, or that there was any sort of excuse for anything. Like I remember being very young and getting upset because my friends would bring home their report cards, and their parents would be like, oh, you made a B, here's $50. And I'm like, what? I'm not getting paid for grades. Why is it that my dad was just like, because you're capable of making straight A's, like and B's, and it was just like, because that's what you do naturally. We're not going to pay you for doing for excelling at what you already do naturally. And it really did teach me a lot about the concept of integrity and absolutely doing your best, not because anybody's watching, but because that's what you're supposed to do. Not because there's a reward at the end of the tunnel, not because there is, some sort of like that. That's where that intrinsic motivation will come from. You do your best because you're supposed to do your best.
Right.
And I teach my kids that, my daughter came in and she was like, I had the worst day ever. I got a 50 on my spelling test. And I said, well, did you try your best? And she was like, yes. And I said, well, then I don't care. I don't care what the grade is. All I care is if you do your best. And she just like, mind blown, a little bitty first grade, mind blown. She was just like, really? I'm like, wait, but I know what your best is. You can actually make a lot better than that. We're going to teach you what trying your best looks like. But I started to kind of, plant those seeds for, because it goes so much into our confidence. And we use that confidence to launch everything in our world. Our relationships are going to come from that. Any of our, professional aspirations are going to come from that level of confidence. And we have an opportunity to change that with our kids. And we have an opportunity to change that with ourselves, because when we consistently create the evidence that we can do the hard things, that we can do, something that we really believed was out of our reach, like start a podcast, or, start a business, or, go to the gym 3 times in 1 week when you hadn't gone for a year. I mean, there are such little things that we can do to create that evidence that goes, oh my gosh, if I can do that, I can do other things. And always looking for that, because the confidence is everything will hinge upon that.
Yeah. And I have found in my life, when I have not been the most confident, that's when I've been picked on, or it's like the bullies know you don't have the confidence, and they're kind of like that. You send out that energetic vibe, but if you come across as confident, they don't mess with you, especially in corporate. So
true.
At least that's been my experience. The other thing, so you've touched on a couple of things that I have seen with my clients as well, which is not really being good with self-care, not really having good boundaries, maybe even tending towards sort of like codependent tendencies and stuff like that. So how do you coach some of your clients around that? And being more intentional about, filling your cup first before, you can take care of everything else, because there's always going to be the everything else. Right. And like you said, we're human beings, not human doings, not the tree. Right. And so do you see that as well?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And one of the things that I think is interesting is a lot of I work with women, so I use women as an example. I always assume that men have this thing too, but I don't work with them, so I don't know that language as well. There is something I see a lot with pre-programming and permission. And either because of the role model that we had with mothers or caregivers, or what we're just seeing in society, women, and there is a whole thing about women being the default parent in a lot of ways. And I think that happens even if there are not children, because women, we are the multitaskers. We are the ones who end up having a lot of everything's kind of going on in our heads. The responsibilities are all happening, within our own heads. And then we're the ones that kind of set the tone and organize the lifestyle. A lot of times we're doing that with finances, or we're doing that with the social calendar, whatever it is, for us. And the pre-programming that we've received is we have to keep everything going and all of these plates spinning, because if not, it's all on us. And
right. And it has to be perfect. And it has to be perfect.
And it has to be perfect. It has to be well done, because if not, then you're a crappy mom, or you're a crappy wife, or you are not adulting well, or fill in the blank. And right. I'm working every day on rewiring this with myself, because that's all I've ever known. I'm very type A, very Virgo. That's what I like, feeling prepared. And I've had to go through this entire reprogramming, and that has consisted of NLP. It has consisted of therapy. It has consisted of a lot of therapy, both a lot of coaching, both coaching myself and working with other coaches. But one of the things that I have always told myself is that it is my responsibility. Like everyone else's experience is that all of that is my responsibility. My kids, my clients, my spouse, everybody. So I'm having to reprogram that. And it has started with someone else giving me the permission. And so that is one of the things that I really work on with my clients. Here's the permission that you don't have to be the one that has all of this figured out. Something can slip. And as long as it is not a life and death thing, I use the 2-year rule. Is this truly going to matter in 2 years? If you forget to pack your kids' lunch, or you forget that you were supposed to bring this as room mom, or if you, forget a doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, or family member's birthday, will it really matter in 2 years? And if the answer is no, then it's immediately crossed off your list of things that you're going to carry in your heart. It is not allowed to cause anxiety. You look at the situation, you figure out what you could have done different with it, and then you implement a plan going forward, period. New scheduling system, new use of your time, whatever that looks like. And I think it's up to us to really figure out what our roles and responsibilities are, so that the next generation of females isn't feeling like they have to take everything else on. I'm a huge fan of delegating and automating, hiring a housekeeper, a personal assistant, a VA, whatever you need in your life or in your business. Because if there is something that you don't actually have to touch, then you're not doing the world any favors by being a martyr and being like, well, I have to do everything. Right. You freeing up that energy to do something that is more aligned with your purpose and keeps you in a higher vibration is going to be the number one best thing that you can do, not just for yourself, but for your financial bottom line, any of the relationships that you have in your life, kids, spouse, friendships, boss, whatever. And when we really start looking at that, and again, it's a rewiring. We have to reprogram this to look at, when am I in my highest and best energy? When am I feeling so intuitively drawn to something that, something that, that I want to do? And if it is not a hell yes, then it needs to be crossed off your list. And that's where it becomes, it's up to us to find the creative ways, delegate it to a partner, somehow share the responsibility with another person at work, share the responsibility with another mom, whatever it is that we need to do, because us keeping our energy high is going to be, I think, what really takes us to the next level as women, as, as a society. And so we have to look at the big picture and look at the traditional roles. And like in my house, I don't cook. I don't enjoy it. It's not something that's fun to me. My husband happens to love it. So I used to have this thing where I'm like, God, I'm like, I need to be cooking. I need, any good mom knows how to make a good meal and whatever else. And I finally got to the point, I'm like, I don't want to own this. It's not fun to me. And it's definitely not in my highest energy. I will go outside and play with the kids or sit in my office and work or whatever. My husband's like, okay, it's time for dinner. It works so much better for our family than me trying to, use my pre-programming that women are supposed to cook dinner. And I have thousands. That's a very traditional example, but I have thousands of things like that it just does not make sense for us to give up the connection that we need with ourselves, with spirit, with other people in order to keep doing all the things. It no longer serves us. And I think the way that I feel like energetic codes are really changing, and that is such an old way of doing things where it's no longer going to hold.
I love that. Energetic codes are changing. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So my finale question is always, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done, and how does it inspire you today? So if you were to think back on just lots of different things and decisions that you've made, pivots that you've made, what is that bravest thing that you've done?
My favorite is having kids, and I did it in a way that I did a lot of research, and I wanted to do natural childbirth. And it was very important to me to do that because in all the research I did, it was what is best for the child. And I let that lead instead of my fear, because there was a point when I was just like,
what was I thinking?
What? Yes. Give me any drugs, stick it in my arm, whatever, in my spine, whatever you have to do, just get this baby out of me. And interestingly enough, my second baby was a placental abruption. So just one day I went into labor, but I wasn't really progressing. The placenta had abrupted from the uterus. It was just this really freak accident 6 weeks early, and I had to have an emergency C-section. So for my third child, I had to decide how I wanted to have her, because it was safest for me to have a C-section.
Right.
But I knew that for her, it would be having a VBAC would be the best because of the exchange of bacteria and everything else. And I did. I feel like hours of praying, years of, not years, but it felt like years of research. I'm only pregnant for 9 months, and there were so many things, but I went back to, and I had the successful VBAC, and I had her naturally as well. And those are things that, again, with integrity, it was not the easy, none of that was the easy road. I felt like, doing that for them it was just very important for me to at least attempt. And then I was very open, to changing the course if medically necessary, but I wanted to attempt it. And they were successful. All three births in their own way were successful for their own reasons. But I look at that, and that again, with creating evidence, those experiences, I pull from that a lot of times whenever I am, completely in my head about a launch that I'm doing, or a speaking event that I'm doing. I have to remember, I did one of the hardest things a body can ever do without medication, without any sort of assistance. And I did that on my own. If I can do that, I can get up in front of 150 people and just talk. I might sweat a lot. I will more than likely stutter and say so many times it's uncomfortable for everyone, but but I can do the hard thing. And that's probably the thing that I've pulled the most inspiration from in the most unrelated things. And so now that I know that, I consistently will attempt to create other situations that I can, again, pull confidence from.
Right. Well, and they say that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to go to the next level. And it's just a series of events, opportunities, situations where you just have to get comfortable that you're uncomfortable in the situation. And so I just want to thank you so much for sharing your message today on the Brave Girl platform. I feel like there's so much wisdom in everything that you said, and talking about your story, and talking about your children, and talking about your coaching practice, and talking about just so many things. So how can people find you on the internet if they're interested in connecting with you?
Instagram's pretty easy. So it's Megan Urban Coaching. And Facebook too, it's a little bit harder to find, but Megan Welch Urban is my name on there. I do most of things through my personal page, but there is a program coming out in this month it's called Divine Rising, and it is a feminine mastermind, creating a really strong, supportive sisterhood of women. And we are really going to get in touch with the way seasons and the moon and our own cycles impact us, the way they influence our energy, our ways of thinking, our ways of connecting, and start to really, again, with permission, being able to give people the permission and giving women the tools on bringing in their own intuition and creating that really solid trust. So there's going to be some really fun guest speakers that I'm excited about. And the program's going to run for a full 12 weeks. So I'm very excited to be able to hold that space for women, connect with the intuition, connect with the very intentional ways of living, and being able to create that level of living their truth and following their purpose, whatever that looks like, and discovering what that means. And because for each person, I know it's going to be different. I know, for some, it's going to be a particular career path. For others, it's going to be unraveling relationships or career paths. So I'm very excited to see what all comes from it. But it's called Divine Rising. And I feel like the whole thing is very divinely led.
Great. Well, I will make sure that I put links to all of that in the show notes so that people can actually get right to it. And I post the podcast on my website in the blog section. And so they can link right from the post for your episode. So thank you again for being on the show. I'm so glad we connected. I just think you're a beautiful soul, and I think you're doing great things out there. And I think you're really helping a lot of people. So
thank you, Tracy.
Megan.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.